Is there a link between a certain age group or demo in 20 to 34-year-old men, perhaps, that are playing these video games, and then their violent actions?
If you're murdering somebody in cyberspace, in a sense, you're performing the act, you like it or not.
By the way, speaking of evil, do you hear Grand Theft Auto 5 made almost $1 billion in the first 24 hours? Don't let your kids watch that, play that. Don't. It's not just a video game.
It helps refine your shooting skills, and it desensitizes you to the grief of taking another life.
And they watch that, and suddenly that becomes their reality.
They are dangerous.
No different than having an open bar in the house or lots of drugs.
Point.
Are they going to become violent just by playing Grand Auto Theft and Halo and these games?
Yes.
In fact, if you can remember, these kids are going to become violent?
Of course. He had an obsession with video games, shooting video games.
This is a guy who loved to play video games. He would lock himself in a room and play the same type of games. Yeah, violent video games, just like the shooter did at Sandy Hook.
So he's probably prepared for this for a long time, just obsessing over it, gathering up his weapons, probably spending his time in his apartment playing one video game after the other, shooting, and building up his courage and the excitement of when it's going to be real for him.
Guns are irrelevant to this problem.
He would watch on a life-size screen these violent video games for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours.
Which, of course, he had in common with the Newtown shooter and so many others.
And so many others.
Let's take a look at this link between these recent teen killers and video games. The Columbine shooters, Virginia Tech shooter, the Arizona shooter.
They're all described as essentially being addicted to video games.
All of these folks were addicted to violent video games.
These three young men all reportedly spent hours playing video games each day in their basement.
Guns are irrelevant to this problem.
Then why aren't we looking at frequency of purchases per person, and also how often they're playing and how many maybe they time out after a certain hour.
You go to your room. And the race that politicizes from the right is, oh, don't bring up guns, don't mention guns. Guns have nothing to do with it. This is all about the fact that this guy was a nut job, he's crazy, and that's the problem. And so let's talk about mental instability and the need for greater health care for people who are, you know, under mental treatment. But let's not talk about guns. That's the political effort.
Guns are irrelevant to this problem.